The competition is heating up in your fantasy football league, and as you try to pull away or play catch-up with a grueling week of trades, waiver pickups, and lineup tweaks, don't forget, let your loved ones know that you're still breathing with bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. Take it from me, nothing tops the excitement of a 1-800-Flowers bouquet, and right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, 1-800-Flowers will give you another dozen absolutely free. That's 40% off the original price. This beautiful bouquet of 2 dozen roses in a rainbow of colors will leave your loved one stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. Amazing roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. A dozen multicolored roses for $29.99 plus another dozen free. It's an incredible deal and a small price to pay with all your fantasy league winnings. There's 1-800-Flowers.com and there's everybody else. You know who I trust when the game's on the line. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike.
America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone, network, and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
All right, here we are. We are Mike and Mike. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, and we say welcome to the working week, and lots of work to be done today in and outside the NFL. We have all the games, of course, and we have Russell Westbrook's contract, and we have the baseball playoffs upon us. We have O.J. Simpson released, so we are packed for a 4-hour sports excursion. But this morning, Mike, as it seems we have to far too frequently, we begin by acknowledging tragic events. Lately, it feels like a lot of them have been of the natural variety, and this time something totally different. You may be aware, maybe you're not, if you're just waking up, of an incident involving an active shooter on the Strip in Las Vegas, in which, at the last count we had heard, some 20 people are dead, and you fear that that number may grow. Horrible scenes in Las Vegas overnight.
Yeah, there was a country music festival right in the area of Mandalay Bay, that area, and Jason Aldean was finishing up. And that festival, and there was a shooter that turned out to, I believe it was on the 32nd floor of the hotel, and just nonstop firing, some people said, for at least over a minute. There were those that thought it was fireworks. There were those that thought at the end of the festival that it was fireworks going off, until obviously there's a horrific point when you realize it's not, as people around others were falling, and you could see gunshot wounds, and obviously mass confusion going on then. It turns out they got the gunman. They killed the gunman, and they believe that was the only person. They thought there might have been another person with them, but they don't believe there was. So they did get the person, but not before that person just wreaked incredible havoc on the group of people at the festival. Just what a horrible, horrible situation. I mean, you don't even know what to say. You know, there's one thing about, obviously, with Mother Nature and the whole deal, and the horrific things that happen there, and everybody banding together to try and help. But, you know, with the concert in London with Ariana Grande and that explosion that killed people, and this, I mean, it's just sickening. And, you know, all you can do, you know, when you're thousands of miles away or whatever, nowhere near the scene, is just, you know, pray that those that haven't passed, you know, that they make it. There's many that are in critical situations, critical condition right now, and pray for those, the families of those who lost people in that one. But just a horrible, horrible situation.
You're exactly right. You think about what to say at times like this, and there really isn't. There isn't anything sitting here that we can say that is going to make anybody feel better who's directly involved. It's a place that so many of us have been many times. And so, yes, we will leave it at that for the moment. If there's further information that we can pass along, we certainly will. But I think the best thing we can do is do our show here and go through all of the sports. Obviously, it was a very, very busy sports weekend, a ton of NFL action to get to that we will. So we put together an off the top for you here of all the events outside of the NFL so we can catch you up on all of those. And we start with the President's Cup, Mike, which was really no contest. They went into yesterday with the U.S. holding an almost insurmountable lead, and the international team actually won a lot of the events yesterday, but it didn't make any difference. The U.S. an easy winner.
Yeah, this one, and they've done this in the past. They won their 12th President of the Cup, 19-11, improved their record to 10-1-1. The 8-point margin was the largest the U.S. had since the 2000 event when they won by 11 points. It was a rookie that actually clinched it in the fourth single match yesterday. Daniel Berger did that. Phil Mickelson won his singles match 2-1. 2-1, I should say, is 26 match won all time, most in the event. Tiger Woods is second with 24. But quite honestly, this has really never been great competition, correct? I mean,
it has not. You just read the stat.
Yeah,
I mean, the U.S. always wins this thing, and this time again, winning it handily. It's fun to watch. This weekend was so one-sided. It really wasn't as much fun to watch.
No, it wasn't. But I just like the different golf. I love, the partners, the match play, the whole different side of just watching stroke play in the tournament.
I'm entertained by how friendly they are. I mean, the camaraderie amongst those guys that you usually see competing with each other, and they're friendly rivals. But it is fun to see them playing together.
Get to the Ryder Cup, where there's a little more hate involved.
The celebrating is also kind of amusing. No, I meant amongst the teammates, even the American teammates.
Yeah.
When Mickelson doing that ridiculous Three Amigos dance, and not particularly well. Anyway, Team USA, an easy winner. Giancarlo Stanton falls one shy of 60 and two shy of 61 home runs despite a bunch of hits yesterday, and got a standing ovation from the crowd in his final game of the season.
It was even put up to first, and he usually hits in the two-hole. He hit a lead off so he could get that extra at-bat, but wasn't able to get the home run. Tied for the 9th most in the season in MLB history. He finished tied. The other guy he tied with was Babe Ruth, hit 59 in 1921. Aaron Judge also set a rookie record, hitting 52. It's interesting, though. Stanton did lead the majors in RBIs, was 132. Ozuna, his teammate, ranked third with 124. And Nolan Arenado, who's going to be, your NL MVP, was sandwiched in there at 130. But a couple of big boppers in there. Both two end up in the 50s with Stanton and with Judge. But he didn't get to that 61 that he wanted. We know the record is 73, but he really looked at that 61. First, we'd like to get the 60 just to get another who we believe is a clean athlete, getting to that mark.
Right. So Babe Ruth in 1927 and Roger Maris remain the only hitters ever, only players ever, without any cloud or whatever you want to call over it, to hit 60 home runs in a season. The baseball playoffs start tomorrow. Yankees and Twins, with the action on ESPN TV and ESPN Radio. And then the National League wildcard game is Colorado-Arizona. You'll hear every pitch of the postseason on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, and we look forward to it. Mike will certainly have plenty of preview. We'll do a little today. We'll go heavy on it tomorrow.
And for the season series, New York beat Minnesota 4-2, 3-0 at home. The game will be in New York, and the other game will be in Arizona. Arizona held an 11-8 advantage over Colorado, 5-5 at home. But Greinke is pitching for Arizona. He pitched to a 13-1 count at home this year.
Yeah, it was a very interesting baseball season. It did not have, for all of the races that sort of went right down to the wire, it didn't have the kind of gripping finish.
Didn't finish that way
in recent years.
Plus, you didn't have the Cubs
going
into the postseason last year as the World Series favorite. After we all know, obviously, what that franchise has been through. So that was obviously the big headline last year.
We do, for the record, have the Cubs, but I know what you mean. We didn't have a story like the Cubs. We didn't have that
story.
Yeah.
Now we have them. They won a World Series, so they're old news.
Right. I could just picture people saying, "Oh, go look! What are you talking about? We have the Cubs."
You know what I'm
We have
talking
the Cubs.
Yeah,
but we don't have what the Cubs were last year, and we won't again for another 100 years. And then finally, as expected, O.J. Simpson was released from prison in Nevada very early Sunday morning. We have some video and audio of him as some reporters caught up with him in Nevada yesterday, and we'll wait and see. The stories are all about him wanting to go to Florida. We'll have one of his former attorneys late in the show today.
Yeah, and listen, they pulled it off how they wanted to. They didn't want a lot of fanfare. That's why they did it in the middle of the night. Very few cameras that were there or anything along with it. Looks like he's going to Florida. It seems that some in Florida don't want him there. And basically, when talking about where he's going, basically he says, none of your business, but everybody believes that's where he is going to end up.
And that is just a smattering of some of the sports stories away from the football fields yesterday with Off the Top presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot, see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. And that doesn't even encapsulate the whole sports weekend, because clearly the biggest story, I thought, outside of the NFL of the sports weekend is the Russell Westbrook contract. I don't know about you, and I don't know if there was an inkling of this Friday morning. I wasn't here.
No.
Didn't see that one coming.
Nope.
And a couple of different thoughts. I mean, enormous credit to Sam Presti, the GM of the Thunder. They're hanging on. Whatever it is.
They really are.
They're doing everything they can possibly do. He turned 4 nondescript players into Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, and maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. But one way or another, Russell Westbrook just decided this is where I'm going to stay. $200 million later, obviously, had a lot of reasons to do it, and he has the richest contract in NBA history, and he is locked in OKC.
The deadline for this was October 16th, so, that's still a little bit of ways away, so nobody saw this Friday. I guess he was just waiting for Kevin Durant's birthday.
That's right. I mean, do you think, is there any way in the world that was a coincidence?
I just wonder, who knows anymore? You put on the tinfoil cap and you look at the conspiracy theory. Who knows? But, as we've been told by our basketball people, it'd be very unlikely to have the team they have, the stars they have this year, again next year, of what it would do to their salary and the luxury tax and all that. But looks like you're going to have Westbrook. I wouldn't be shocked if the other two, and Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, won't be around for that one. But Russell Westbrook, I tell you, he's there for the duration. And the way Presti is working his magic, we'll see. Now, will they ever, at this point, does it look like they're going to compete with the top? It's tough to think. I don't think anybody believes, you believe they worked up themselves to the second in the conference.
They have a chance to.
We'll see.
They have a chance to be second.
Listen, better than they were last year. I get that. Next year, the team is going to change again. But Russell Westbrook is basically saying, hey, gang, I'm going to be the constant here. So, build around me.
Yeah. I think it's a great story. I think that all sports leagues are better, whatever the expression is about a fence only being as strong as its weakest link. When little markets like Oklahoma City can keep big stars like Russell Westbrook, I think it is in the best interest of the entire sport. Okay, so there's all of that from the weekend, and then obviously to the NFL. And as I was thinking about what football game we should lead with, Mike, I settled on Panthers-Patriots because there's a lot going on here. The New England Patriots came into this season, I was calling them the Golden State Patriots because they felt like they were such a prohibitive favorite in a way that we hadn't seen a football team be in a long time. And I'll tell you what, they are one brilliant Tom Brady comeback away from being 1-3, and their defense has been sliced and diced every single week. They have been torn apart by 4 different quarterbacks. If you go back to the beginning of the season, Brady has had to carry this team, and the question is, which one goes first? Does the Patriot offense lose the ability to carry the defense, or does the defense start to put it together?
No, I would lean the way of because if you're talking about the offense not being able to carry, you're talking about Tom Brady. As long as Gronkowski stays healthy, he's that weapon. Chris Hogan was a good weapon for them yesterday. So I don't worry about, listen, you score 30 points, you should win a game, right? I mean, not
when your defense is as bad as their defense is.
You know what I'm saying? If your offense, if you go out and say, you know what, we're going to score 30 points today, there's usually a pretty good chance you think you have a good shot to win the game. And they did yesterday, where we're beat, right at the final gun by the field goal by Carolina. So here's a couple of stats. Last year, only 3 quarterbacks threw for over 300 yards against New England all season long. Last year.
Right.
3 all season. They've played 4 games this year. Every quarterback has thrown for over 300 yards. Mm-hmm. Alex Smith, 368. Drew Brees, 356. DeShaun Watson, 301. Cam Newton, 316. So that defense is awful. So my thought would be that the defense is going to get better before the offense, outside of injury. And, injury is the great equalizer. So outside of injury, I would look to them to be able to improve by how much? I don't know. Again, you're not bringing in all pros off the street. It's who you have. So it's how you play them and how they play. They've always been so good at being the chameleon to shape shift to whatever they needed to do on defense to get it done with versatile players. They're not getting it done. This stat amazes me the most, and this brings in another team that's been a surprise, would be the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are scoring like crazy, right?
Yeah.
The Rams have gone from worst scoring offense in 2016 to the best scoring offense in 2017. The Patriots have gone from the best scoring defense last year to the worst scoring defense this year. So this is what happens in football in a year, the change you can have and the shift you can have. Now, as we'll get to the Rams in a bit, the Rams were 3-1 at this point last year. But it certainly feels different than this year than it does last year. But back to this story in the New England Patriots, their defenses, they're bad. They're just bad right now. They can't get a good rush on the quarterback. They're letting and in turn, it's all a domino effect on what quarterbacks are able to do to them downfield. So that is going to have to be schematic. It's going to have to be the plays just going to have to improve because all of a sudden you're not going to insert all pros somewhere from somewhere else. It's just not going to happen. This is who you have. You're a quarter of the way through the season. We're at a point now where you can kind of say, this is who we are. So, but if there is a team and a coaching staff that you think can improve, which everybody tries to do, you naturally lean toward New England and say, okay, they're good enough to be able to improve, but that defense has a lot of improving to go.
Correct. I agree with you. I think I said this on Twitter yesterday. Smart Money says Bill figures this out, and their defense by Halloween looks totally different than it does now. But through 4 games, only the Indianapolis Colts have allowed more points this season than the Patriots have. And again, they needed Brady to bring them back from the brink of defeat against a rookie quarterback in DeShaun Watson, as spectacular as he was again yesterday. Right. Otherwise, they'd be sitting at 1-3 right now through the start of this season. They gave up 444 yards at home yesterday to Carolina. They gave up 140 on the ground, and Cam threw for 304 through the air. Louis Riddick was watching a lot of it and saw a lot of miscommunication or lack of communication in the Patriots secondary.
The number one thing that will beat you in the NFL as far as secondary play is concerned is lack of communication. And you've heard Devin McCourty talk about it. You've heard Patrick Chung talk about it. You've heard Malcolm Butler talk about it. That communication right now keeps breaking down for them in critical moments. Mm-hmm. And teams are doing certain things to them, especially when you're talking about rub routes, pick routes, that really require the secondary, meaning the corners and the safeties, the corner and the nickelback, the corner and the dime linebacker, the safety and the dime linebacker. It really requires a lot of communication. And right now, these guys are having communication breakdowns. You can see it right here. There's confusion on this route. When players are that wide open, it's not because you're not good, it's because you're not talking. And when you get down in the red zone, it really becomes a problem because you have no margin for error.
Cam Newton throwing against this defense has given up the points. Cam only had, we're talking about accuracy issues with Cam Newton, 22 of 29, only 7 incompletions for 316 yards, and he ran the ball 8 times for 44 yards. From the Carolina side of it, as I'm sure, hey, we're the winning team, talk about us, and I get it, but we do have a defending Super Bowl champ that's defense is just awful right now, but Cam has to run for Carolina. I know they don't want him to run as much, but he is going to have to run because that's how that offense runs best. So they have a good game yesterday. He helps get them in a position. You had to wonder. You wondered that when New England scored, and amazingly enough, you kind of, as we're all sitting there and texting in our group and all saying, oh, yeah, Carolina, then you know what's coming. They showed a shot of Ron Rivera, and you just said, well, Ron knows it's coming. And there's Tom Brady lead him down for the tying touchdown. You knew it was going to happen. A little scary at times, but it's Tom Brady. You knew he was going to get it done. But what I actually found myself doing was going, this defense isn't good, and there's time on the clock.
Yeah, of course.
They can't. They're where they're at to score now. They can't burn the last 4 minutes of the game. They can't burn all that up, and they're going to give Carolina time. And the way that defense has been, Carolina's got and they got a kicker that can boot the ball and put themselves in position to get that win.
Look, the Panthers are a good team. No one's saying no, but right. You gave the stat off the right off the top. The Patriots have allowed 300 yards passing to every quarterback they have faced this year, and there's no rest for the weary now. They play Thursday night against Jameis and Tampa, so we'll see what winds up happening there. The Patriots, again, looking up now at Buffalo in the AFC East after a terrific start by the Bills and a great win for the Bills yesterday in Atlanta. And for the first time this year, the Patriots are not the favorite to win the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Again, any mention of Las Vegas this morning will conjure up terrible images, but you know what I mean. The betting favorite right now is not the New England Patriots for the first time. Do you know who it is?
Well, I saw the stat, but I was going to say Kansas City, but it's not Kansas City.
It's Pittsburgh. Yeah. Right now, the wagering favorite is Pittsburgh at 9-2, followed by New England at 5-1 and Green Bay at 6-1.
The Chiefs aren't even third. They're not even in the top 3. Now, they play tonight. They're the last undefeated team in the NFL as they take on Washington tonight. But I would imagine if they beat Washington, those odds should change a little bit. I mean,
Maybe.
boy.
Depending on if you buy into them or you don't. And the odds also are based on a lot of things about the popularity of teams and the numbers of teams.
Sure.
People that might go in there and bet them. If you watch, for example, Green Bay, and I'm not knocking anything about them, and it's all about Aaron Rodgers, but to me, the best team in that division is Detroit.
Yeah.
And they proved it again yesterday by going into Minnesota and winning. Look, the Lions are 6 inches away from being unbeaten.
They absolutely are.
The Golden Tates took us.
Yeah.
It winds up 1 yard further into the end zone last week against Atlanta. They're sitting there right now at 4-0.
They're definitely the most balanced team. Green Bay dealing with a lot of injuries, and I'll get it out of the way quickly. I won my nerd game. That was my nerd game, the Detroit Lions. So I'm 2-2 now
against Minnesota.
Against Minnesota. Minnesota, the Nerd Power Index had Minnesota. I went with Detroit. I like Detroit. I like how balanced they are. They definitely are the most balanced team in that division. But Green Bay has the best quarterback in that division. So we'll see.
And Minnesota may have the best defense. Minnesota may have suffered the biggest injury.
Oh, my gosh.
The Dalvin Cook thing. What a shame to see that. That kid is so good.
So good. I mean, you were high on him right away, but listen, I was as well with you, but there was concerns about character, concerns about shoulder injuries dating back to high school. But, man, he got out of the block strong. Kareem Hunt, obviously, the big-time rookie, the third-rounder, is giving us all the big-time numbers out of the rookies. But Dalvin Cook had been playing extremely well. He makes a cut. Non-contact goes down. I mean, at that point. I mean, it's just – it's not even – it's almost – and it's a shame to do, but you can't even guess. You can't even say, I hope it's not that bad. When that happens, when it's non-contact, they go down, grab their knee right away. It's usually ACL, and I'd imagine that's what we're going to find out today.
Yeah, that's what all the reports are coming out of there. They'll do an MRI today that will confirm it, but that is the expectation. And then quickly, in the zone, as we try and fly through all this, and we'll have all morning long to get to the rest of it, in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone with AutoZone. You know who I'm going to put in the zone, Mike, because I was looking it over. Did you see the stat that Field Yates tweeted about the Denver defense?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
This is a tremendous statistic. All right, the Denver defense this season, we talked about the Patriots giving up 300 yards passing to every quarterback they faced. Well, how about the opposite of that? The Broncos have faced 4-star running backs. They have faced Melvin Gordon, they have faced Zeke Elliott, they have faced Shady McCoy, and they have faced Beast Mode. And those 4 running backs combined against the Broncos this year have taken 50 carries for 95 yards and 0 touchdowns. So those 4 guys haven't rushed for a combined total in 4 games of 100 yards, and they haven't allowed a rushing touchdown to any of them. That's their run defense. Denver's defense is so good. They're allowing 51 yards rushing per game. That's the fewest in the NFL. The Broncos have a formula with consistent, not spectacular, but consistent offensive play to win that division. Let's see what Kansas City does
without
tonight.
a doubt. And, by the way, the ability to get to the passer. Time and time and time again with a guy named Von Miller and all his front 7 mates. So, they that division, all of a sudden, we were basically putting Oakland at the top of it or Kansas City, and Kansas City is there. But, man, the Denver Broncos, I still think there's going to be 3 teams coming out of that depending on the results of the injury of Derek Carr. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. And there were a lot of injuries again this weekend. That whenever the quarterback goes down, in that case, Derek Carr going down with the back injury and leaving the game. So obviously I have to keep a big eye on that.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
All right, Twitter reaction all morning. Let's start hearing from you on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Scott Robart tweets, Green Bay is much better than the Lions. The Pack has so many injuries, they're a different team by the end of the season.
Well, Scott, that's the way it goes. I mean, so get to me at the end of the season. Let's see if they're healthy. I mean, we don't know that right now. We're talking about right now. Right now, the Detroit Lions are more balanced than Green Bay. And a lot of it is because of injury. I get it. But let's see. It's the great equalizer, and it could be the great thing that keeps you down as well. We have no idea what they're going to be like health-wise. It's very difficult to say, well, they're hurt now, they're going to be fine by the end of the year. If they are, we'll have that discussion. Right now, you can't.
And I'm not 100% sure even when they're fine that they're necessarily better than the Lions. The Lions are a pretty complete team. Don't look now. They're starting to run the ball a little bit.
They are, but when Green Bay's healthy, I like their defense. I do like their defense, and you have Aaron Rodgers with the passing game. Their running game isn't great. If you put them all healthy, I would go Green Bay. I agree with Scott in that regard, but they're not all healthy. So the greatest if in the world is if you're available.
Right, yeah, the best ability is availability. The thing I'll say about it's such an eye blink or eyelash kind of a league.
Yeah.
You say that the Lions are 6 inches away from being unbeaten, and they are. Look at the Falcons. They're 3-1. They're 6 inches away from losing the Detroit game, and if a Bears receiver could hold on to a ball, the Falcons could be 1-3 as easily as they are 3-1. So it's all so kind of crazy as we begin the month of October. Money Mike tweets, "This is the first Super Bowl hangover New England has ever displayed." I'm not sure that's true. We sometimes talk about the Patriots as though they start every season on fire, because in recent years they have. But the truth is they've overcome what looked like slow starts. One of the years they won the Super Bowl, they lost their opener 31-0. So Smart Money says Bill has this thing figured out by Halloween.
And we've talked so much about them because they're the Super Bowl champs and the moves they made.
Right.
You know, paying Gilmore the big money in the secondary, bringing it, trading for Cooks from New Orleans. We're like, wow, you know, this is a team that won the Super Bowl and they're not standing pat. And that was just two of the moves. There was more than a few other moves, so it is a bit of a head scratcher.
Gene tweets, "Tom Brady is just seeing what Aaron Rodgers has been dealing with for years. Tough to win when you have to score 30 a game." Look, there was a time when the Patriots were winning championships with one of the worst defenses in the NFL, or at least statistically. Now, I don't think they were ever really a terrible defense. Right now, they look flat terrible. So the question is, are they going, if they stay terrible, they're not going to win. And the Patriots, you don't win a championship with a terrible defense. You can win with a defense that statistically ranks very low.
Right.
There's a lot of things go into
that. The Giants did that some years ago. They ranked very low statistically. Remember, the Patriots were winning because of their defense early Super Bowls.
Right.
You know, as opposed.
But in recent years, mostly it's been last year they were the number one scoring defense in the sport.
Yes,
as
they
you
were.
mentioned.
Yep.
Right now, their defense is just flat bad.
Yeah.
So the question is, can it stop being flat bad?
And
my
again,
prediction is it will.
Well, I think it will. I would give it more of a chance to go up. From a scoring side, it can't go down. You're already the lowest, and you have four quarterbacks in a row throwing for over 300 yards. So, yes, my bet would be that does improve some. But let's not expect some miraculous turnaround where all of a sudden they're the best defense around scoring-wise. That's you still have the same players. They're going to have to the miscommunication that's going on. You're just flat out getting beat in some instances. I do think it'll get better, but let's be careful to think that it's going to turn around, from worst to first.
All right, much more Twitter all morning long. 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We know there's been a London game now each of the last 2 weeks, and so the home team in those games does not have a home field advantage in the traditional sense. There's another team that does not have a home field advantage in any sense. In fact, Eagles tackle Jason Peters yesterday, speaking of the Los Angeles Chargers, said, quote, "It's almost like they have 16 away games. It's going to be tough sledding for those guys." I've been watching football all my life, so let's call it 40-something years that I can remember. I've never seen a home team get booed running out onto the field before. The Chargers got booed running out onto the field. Their stadium yesterday, which has the soccer lines on it, if you watch it, it has the areas. They're playing in a soccer stadium. They have to tarp off sections of the stands because they're not going to fill 30,000 seats.
30,000 seats, and they're tarping it off.
But more to the point, the place is an Eagles home game yesterday. Right. I mean, Philip Rivers was saying, well, we didn't have to go to the silent count, but it certainly wasn't ideal. And make sure everyone understands what he means when he says that.
Yeah, the silent count is normally what teams do when they're on the road because the visiting fans are so loud that you can't use your signals audibly. You have to go to the silent count. He's at home. He's supposedly in his home stadium now talking about, well, we didn't have to go to the silent count. I mean, just the utter thought of that is amazing.
So the Chargers, it's a disaster.
You got the mayor of L.A. saying they didn't need him there. I mean, it's horrible for them, and they do what they do best. In the Phillip Rivers era, they lose by a couple of points. They haven't won a game, and the margin of loss is just over 5 points a game. I mean, it is the story of Phillip Rivers is losing by a couple of points with a chance to possibly win it at the end of the game, but falling short. It's unreal.
Yeah, I don't know at some point what that says because it happens year after year,
yes, it
time
does.
after time, coaching regime after coaching regime. They're winless. The Giants are winless. Those teams play each other this weekend, so one of them has to win. Well, I guess they both can't lose. One of them doesn't necessarily have to win because the Jets and Jaguars almost tied yesterday. Next up, let's play a game, Mike, a new game that we'll create, and we'll call it Are They For Real? Got a couple of teams that have gotten off to surprisingly good starts at the quarter pole of the season. You tell me, are they for real? We start with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 3-1. Goff is playing like the number one pick in the draft. Gurley is playing like what he looked like as a rookie. They got some good receivers, particularly this Cooper Kupp is spectacular to watch. Their defense is rough and tough, and they have a great defensive coach, of course, in Wade Phillips, who could be the grandfather of their head coach. Are the Los Angeles Rams at 3-1 for real?
I think they're leaning that way. I'm not going to sit there and stamp it just yet. Let's remember they were 3-1 last year before finishing horrifically bad. It's a different team this year. Goff is playing well. I like the offense. And for the start, we keep talking about Aaron Donald and that defense. Their defense gives up a lot of yards and a lot of points. They do. They get run on. They get thrown on at times. They can get pressure on the quarterback, and they do make enough plays to win. But, in a game where you win 35-30, your defense, you gave up 30 points. So that worries me a little that a lot of pressure is going to stay on your offense to have to score a lot of points. Now, Goff is showing that, and I do like the weapons and help they brought in. And you're right, Gurley, behind a bit of a revamped offensive line, has helped a lot. But they're still not good enough on one side of the ball to completely carry the other. So I like what Wade Phillips has done. I do like some of the pieces on their defense, but their defense has given up points and their defense has given up yards. So that's a little bit of a worry for me. They're certainly on the arrow up, but I don't want to stamp them, oh yeah, this team is for real and they're now going to compete and be there at the end of the year, pushing for, well, really, if they're pushing for a playoff spot, that would be something incredible, and you have to give them that right now. But I'm going to be careful there because the defense has given up a decent amount.
They also have a really good kicker, Greg Zuerlein.
Oh, my gosh.
271 yards worth of field goals yesterday in a huge win at Dallas. The other team in my game of Are They For Real is Buffalo. The Bills are 3-1. They go into Atlanta yesterday. Now, I know Julio gets hurt and Sanu gets hurt at one point in that game, but the Bills shut them down defensively. Taylor makes plays. They have a couple of weapons. Shady obviously runs it. And they have a few other backs that run the ball as well. The Bills are 3-1. They've been pretty consistent all year. They easily could have beaten Carolina in the one game they lost. They dropped the ball down by the end zone that might have given them a chance to win that game. Are the Buffalo Bills at 3-1 for real?
Yeah, I put a little more on them. I like what LaShawn McCoy is doing. Tyrod Taylor, from the beginning of the season when we thought he wasn't going to start, when he was working on the concussion, I like, again, how he moves in the pocket. He could keep plays alive and make them for him to make them downfield. I do like what the defense is doing. The running game is good. I mean, I am buying into them. And boy, did you hear LaShawn McCoy go nuts in the locker room yesterday? Talk to the winners. Listen, he's right. He can talk all he wants. I picked the guy. I mean, two weekends in a row, I got tweeted at by the Chicago Bears and the Buffalo Bills for picking against them. And I'm like, okay, listen, you're right. I picked against you. Talk. Go ahead and talk, LaShawn. You guys have earned it. You guys are playing well. I'm buying into what they're selling right now, yes.
Yeah, the Bills social tweeted at ESPN because every one of our analysts, inclusive of you, picked the Falcons to win. But candidly, who wouldn't? I mean, they're a home team. They're defending conference champions. They were unbeaten on the season, and they were playing at home.
To pick against them.
That's a great win by the Bills yesterday. And if you saw it, Atlanta came downfield time and time again with chances to win that game, and they couldn't do it. They got bottled up, whatever the word is. They got bottled up. They wound up having to kick a field goal the first time, and they turned it over on downs the second time, and the Bills were all over Matt Ryan.
Yeah, they were. They were.
I think both those teams are for real. I think the Rams are for real. Not to say they're a Super Bowl team, but they're good.
Listen, for the fact, when you say for real, I guess it's your definition. I mean, they're way better than they were last year. Their quarterback is showing a lot of things. So from that aspect, but as far as being caught up in 3-1 and saying, oh my God, they're going to win their division, they're going to make a mark this year in the playoffs, I'm going to hold off a little bit because the defense does give up a lot.
As the rest of the country joins us, we read a tweet a moment ago suggesting that DeShaun Watson is making Ryan Pace, the general manager of the Bears, very nervous. And Mike gave you a good explanation of why Watson's performance this early in his rookie year shouldn't have any impact on your overall belief that the Bears should have taken him first over, of the quarterbacks as opposed to Trubisky, because as Mike pointed out, Watson was extremely experienced and all of that, and Trubisky was not. And so we'll have to wait and see. And I agree with all that. That said, the one thing Watson clearly has as you watch him play, and he's got the best team of any of them also, notwithstanding Patrick Mahomes, who's not on the field. Mm-hmm. But Watson's got a good team around him. That Texans defense, despite a terrible week one performance, is a really good defense. He has a superstar receiver. He has a receiver who is, when we talk about the best receivers in the sport, we always just talk about these other guys because they all have quarterbacks. But I don't think you can talk about that with leaving this out. But that said, Watson also, he's got a little magic about him. There's obviously a little magic in what DeShaun Watson is doing that is special. And here are his last 5 games. In DeShaun Watson's last 5 games, he beat Urban Meyer in the college football playoff. He beat Nick Saban in the college football national championship game. He scored the only touchdown in a win over Cincinnati. He left the field with a lead against Brady and Belichick in Foxborough. And then yesterday he became the first rookie with 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in a game since Fran Tarkenton in 1961. Those are the last 5 games that he started. So he's got a pretty good little run right now.
Oh, yeah,
that would make me nervous if I was Ryan Pace regardless.
As I said, he has it. He just has that it factor to kind of has that cool, calm, nothing really kind of gets him. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Russell Wilson coming in.
Yeah.
Now Russell Wilson came in as a 3rd rounder and ended up winning the starting job, but he just had that presence about him that kind of gave you the confidence in him even early on. And I think that's what's going on with the Texans. I think there's confidence that DeShaun Watson, through incredible big game play in college. Now, that doesn't always translate to the NFL. We know that. But he just seemed to have that about him. Couple that with what you said. The defense didn't start out too good there, but they should be rounding into form as we hit the quarter pole here. You got Will Fuller back yesterday, who had 2 touchdowns. You have DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Miller. That old line was a little shaky early on. Maybe they're coming together as well to help out. And you got a guy that can move well and make plays on the go. So, yeah, you have to like what you're seeing there. We both did. Did you pick them as well, Tennessee? We both picked Tennessee.
I know.
To win the division.
Yes, we both picked Tennessee. I did put the Texans in as a wild card.
You did, and I did not. And the Texans just absolutely rocked Tennessee. Now, Mariota got hurt in that one as well. We're going to have to see where that goes, because where we expected Tennessee to make a move again this year, you're not doing it without Mariota. He's got a hammy, so if it's not too bad, you shouldn't miss time. If it's bad, you can miss weeks with that, and it's something that can linger. And oh, by the way, he's a quarterback that runs. So it's different if you're a pocket passer. He's a pocket passer, but he loves to be on the move as well. So that could be a tough one.
Texans just flat out look better than them anyway.
Yes,
and
they did.
Jacksonville has been very up and down. You watched them yesterday. The Jets tried everything they could to give Jacksonville that game yesterday and couldn't do it. Blake Bortles did nothing yesterday. I mean, the Jaguars are not a very good team, and the Colts obviously are not. So, I think Houston right now, with Watson playing as well as he is, look overwhelmingly like the team to beat in that division. And who knows? I know rookie quarterbacks aren't supposed to win championships in the NFL, but boy, they
got a lot around
good.
him. But he's got a lot around him. That certainly could help a lot. And as I said, he just came in with so much, I think, credibility of what he did in college, where the big moment, the spotlight, did not affect him at all. You can't always count on that at the next level, but right now he's showing he can just kind of step in and keep it going.
And I'll say this too, DeAndre Hopkins. You got, everyone talks about Odell, and he's obviously spectacular. Everyone talks about Julio, and he's spectacular. Antonio Brown is spectacular. They all play in situations with established quarterbacks, regular quarterbacks. DeAndre Hopkins has been in Houston. How many different quarterbacks have they started? What number did we decide Watson is in the last 4 years? Every week it feels like it's a different starting quarterback, and it looks certainly now like they found their guy for the future. Hopkins is as good as any of those guys. He just hasn't had a chance to prove it, I think, because of lack of consistency.
Now he will.
Just keep an eye on that guy. Next hour starts up the Bang Next. Mike and Mike.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. We had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.